Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Craig Flint, and it is time for another edition of the Weather Academy. And before we get going, yours truly has a little splaining to do because, well, I kind of under-forecasted what happened Sunday night into Monday. Yeah, we got a little bit more snow than we thought. Look, this is going to happen, okay? We're going to discuss kind of why what happened did, and that's what makes a good meteorologist, right? When you blow a forecast, you say to yourself, okay, what did I miss? What did I not see? And that's how you improve going down the road. So, weather is not an exact science, it's evolution, so things are constantly changing. And what we try to do is stay ahead of those changes. But when you live near a city by a lake, the lake can humble you. So I've shown this map a few times, and I think it's a really good illustration. So we're going to talk about lake effect, we're going to talk about wind direction, and kind of what happened that gave us so much more snow than I had anticipated. If you watched me Sunday night, I went on the air and said, 4 to 7 inches, no big deal. Yeah, we woke up to like 9, and it kept snowing through the day on Monday. So basically, let's just kind of recap this. So all about wind direction when we talk about lake effect, but there is more to it. So I just wanted to review this. So when we're talking about a southwest wind, that usually favors areas in Buffalo, western New York, the south towns. Those are the areas that really see the snow pile up. Wind directions are in a southwesterly fashion like that. However, wind kind of changes direction all the time. So when it's more of a west or southwest wind, that's when we look for places like Erie to really see the snow pile up. Well, guess what happened Sunday night and Monday? Yeah, the winds shifted and went a little bit more west and southwest, so that really allowed the snow to pile up, especially in northern Erie County. A due west wind places eastern Erie County and Chautauqua County in the crosshairs, and we did have several inches of snow in the eastern parts of Erie County and also into Chautauqua County. And then, of course, you don't want to forget when there's a northwest wind, the fetch over the lake is much shorter, so there's not as much time for the wind to pick up that moisture. But you do get enough, and that's when you do see the snow belt areas, southern Erie County. That's where the snow really starts to pile up when it's a northwest wind. So pretty good illustration about how wind direction impacts lake effect snow and where it goes. That was just kind of a quick review, but like I said, there's much, much more to it. So let's kind of dive into wind direction. And this is kind of a makeshift compass. And when you talk about cardinal direction, you got north at 0 degrees, east at 90 degrees, south at 180 degrees, west at 270 degrees. So a compass circle, the circumference 360 degrees. So that's kind of how we determine the wind direction, because the computer models that we look at, they don't just spit out and say winds are going to be northwest or winds are going to be westerly. It comes down in degrees, and we have to kind of determine what the wind direction is going to be. So this is one example. I know it might be a little hard to see, but I'll highlight it for you. This right here, WDR, that is wind direction. And you notice that it spits out these numbers, 26, 26, 24, 25. So as we highlight that row for you right there, the wind direction, again, these are in degrees. So basically the rule of thumb here is you just add a 0 to each one of these. So 240, 260, 260, 240. This was the forecast Sunday night into Monday, okay? So what happened? Well, the wind direction obviously shifted a little bit. So if you were to look at this, just this raw data and these numbers, and you were to draw that on the compass, it would look something like this. So again, westerly wind, 270. We're blowing around 260, or the wind direction's 260. So if you draw that out, that's what the wind direction looks like. So more west and a little south of west. And that's a pretty favorable wind direction for Erie, Pennsylvania. Let's go back to the computer models, though, and kind of delve into this a little bit more because, well, a computer model is not a forecast, okay? It is not a forecast. It's just a suggestion. So what happens with these computer models is that they come up with these values and they spit out this data. But you know what? Computer models are not perfect. Sometimes they can be off by 10, 20 degrees even. Well, when you're talking about lake effect, that little minute change is a world of difference. And if you've lived around here any length of time, wind direction can determine who gets what, and 10 miles can make a huge difference. So let's just say that the computer model was off by 20 degrees. So instead of 260, the winds were 240. Well, if that were the case, the lake effect band would have stayed offshore, and it would have went up into places like Buffalo. Remember the first graphic I showed you, winds southwest favor Buffalo and the south towns. So if that were the case, if it were a 240 direction, cardinal direction, we really wouldn't have had an issue here in Erie. But with the winds shifting just to about 260, just to the south of west, that's why we saw all of that snow. And again, the computer models are not the greatest at determining the exact wind direction, especially a few days in advance. But that's what it really comes down to, the exact wind direction. But there's more that goes into it. I wanted to show you this real quick too. This is what we call a wind rose. And this is the climatology for Erie. Okay, so when you look at in this particular case, this wind rose is just for January. And again, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can see these spokes here. Notice how they're elongated west and a little bit southwest. So that's the prevailing wind for the month of January. Most common direction will be west and southwest through the course of the month of January. So that's kind of the climatology of it, and that's what we look at here in terms of determining wind direction. So wind roses show the prevailing or most common wind direction, and in the case of Erie for January, it's west and southwest. All right, so let's break this down and talk a little bit more about forecasting lake effect snow. It's not just the wind direction. You have to have temps and wind shear, which wind shear is as you go up in altitude, what are they doing? Are they blowing in different directions? Are they faster? Are they slower? That's all part of producing a lake effect forecast. So it's not just the wind direction. You have to have temperature difference of at least 13 degrees Celsius. For extreme lake effect snow, we like to see a difference between the air temperature and the lake temperature of about 15 degrees Celsius. And is there any wind shear? Because if there's any wind shear, if their winds are changing direction with height, that really doesn't bode well to produce a lot of lake effect snow. So it's not just the wind direction. And like I said, it's tricky to pinpoint the exact wind direction, especially when you're talking a couple days out, 2, 3, 4 days out. It's almost virtually impossible to figure that out. But pinpointing the exact wind direction is the most important application when it comes to making a lake effect snow forecast. Yeah, you have to have temperature differences and wind shear. If you don't have that, it doesn't happen. But wind direction by far and away is the most important. But again, there is more to it than just that. And I mentioned how the computer models can sometimes be off with the wind direction by 10, 15, 20 degrees. Well, it would be 10 to 20 degrees because it only spits out in tenths. But anyway, the computer models can be off by that much. And again, that is a huge difference. So if the wind direction shifts 10 miles, literally can mean the dividing line between a foot of snow and then 10 miles down the road, maybe even less than that, nothing. So it is zip code snow when we talk about lake effect. Now, you might be wondering, okay, you're talking about all this, temperature and wind shear and wind direction. What do we look at? What's the perfect flow for Erie to really snow? Well, the best wind direction for Erie is somewhere between 250 and 270, okay? Right around 260 degrees, that's our sweet spot. That's when the city of Erie and northern Erie County gets the most lake effect snow. So it all comes down to wind direction, and it all comes down to geometry, circular geometry. So if you're taking math and you're sitting in geometry class and you hate it, you're thinking to yourself, when am I ever going to use it? Well, this is kind of a real live application of how you would, or at least how we use geometry. I didn't like geometry either. I was more of a trig guy. But anyway, it does have real life application for us when it comes to forecasting lake effect snow. So it's all about that wind direction, and wind direction is something that's difficult to determine, especially a couple of days out from a lake effect snow event. And that's basically what happened Sunday night into Monday. I apologize, I was a little low, but with the wind direction shifting just right into that magic range of 250 to 270, it was right around 260, we had the lake effect snow point right at the city of Erie, right at northern Erie County, and it snowed pretty much through the day on Monday. So geometry, wind direction, all very important when it comes to forecasting lake effect snow. That's going to do it for this edition of Weather Academy. I hope you learned something, and again, apologize, I was a little off. And we'll keep you up to date as we go through the next few days here. It looks like we'll have a little bit more in the way of lake effect snow to deal with. You can always check out the forecast at yourerie.com. You can click right there in the weather tab. Forecast updated 24/7, and we will see you next week with another topic right here on the Weather Academy.